When someone says, "Oh, I hate this modern episode so much," you can usually tell why people hate it. Maybe Squidward suffers, maybe SpongeBob and Patrick act brain dead, sometimes logic gets thrown right out the window. I mean, we're just so used to it by now, it's getting kind of tiring. But then I remember another infamously hated episode called Sports from season 10. An episode where, technically, Squidward isn't the only one getting tortured. But I can guarantee you, that doesn't make it any better. If anything, it only makes it way weirder. Because unlike Plain to See or Squid Baby, this one doesn't even pretend to be normal. And by the time you reach the ending, you're not even mad. You're just confused by a question that makes the title card feel weirdly accurate. How did something this simple get this messy? The episode throws us straight into chaos from the get-go. SpongeBob drags a trash can outside, with Patrick inside of it, of course, and a mail truck yeets a package straight onto his lawn. It's addressed to Sandy. So naturally, SpongeBob and Patrick do what any good friends would do. They rip it open and crawl inside like raccoons. Unsurprisingly, this is when we hit problem number 1, and it's a big one. They don't recognize sports equipment.
What does this stuff do?
Golf club? Bowling ball? Catcher's mitt? It's like they've never seen any of these objects in their life, which is straight up weird, because this town literally had some kind of Olympics at the Fry Cook Games in season 2. There's also Larry's gym and a volleyball court at Goo Lagoon. We see that in Ripped Pants. But now, a golf club is a book grabber, a bowling ball is a whipped cream bowl, and a catcher's mitt is a portable snail bed. It's honestly impressive how hard you have to work to forget all that. Anyway, they eventually make their way to Squidward, who is in the middle of cooking food worthy of a king.
But this is a meal fit for a king.
Which means, obviously, it's about to get destroyed. A tennis ball comes through the window, ruining his whole meal. Squidward storms out to yell at the neighbors. But this part in the episode gives us a really unexpected conversation, even for modern episode standards.
What's sports?
Sports are games you play for points. The points determine the winner of the game.
They're just brain dead about this. So SpongeBob and Patrick very enthusiastically ask Squidward to teach them about this sports thingy, which leads to this episode's second fatal mistake. Squidward figures he'll torture them back by teaching them the wrong kind of sports.
That's right! You should teach them to play wrong! Let them have it, right between the eyes.
Squidward decides it's the perfect time for payback, after 9 seasons worth of torture. So he blindfolds them, hands them horseshoes, and watches them beat the absolute barnacle out of each other. And listen, the idea of Squidward getting payback could be interesting, if only the entire energy of the scene wasn't villain monologue from a Saw movie. I mean, he just sits there in a chair smiling while SpongeBob and Patrick are beating each other. But the most ironic thing about this scene is that they think they're doing great.
Pain is worth points. You know the phrase, no pain, no gain.
From that sentence alone, we already know the plot can only escalate into more pain. Only pain, to be exact. Every scene after is just pain happening with different kinds of sports equipment. Ice skating on sand? Pain. Slicing SpongeBob in half? Pain. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a crowd gathers in a stadium. I swear, Bikini Bottom citizens smell violence like sharks smell blood. A father and son see them from a side road, and the dad says, "Don't worry, son. We're sports fans. We just watch." Watch what exactly? Because none of this is actually sports. Unless by sports you mean 2 grown men hitting themselves in the face with random objects, while Squidward keeps score like a Roman emperor. But you know what? The crowd loves it anyway. At this point, this is just a sport gladiator, right? Actually calling it outright gladiator would have been better, less confusion at least. But again, just when you think things can't get any stranger, the fog machines turn on, trumpets play, and Squidward is carried out in a full Grim Reaper outfit to become the rule giver. And the crowd cheers for him, which raises a bigger question. Does anyone in Bikini Bottom know what a sport is? Because the father said they're sports fans, and yet, what kind of games are they playing? Heck, I don't even think there's any rules in this event. So yeah, I think the audience isn't confused, they're really just enjoying the violence. But finally, Sandy arrives to fix everything. Or, well, not really. After seeing SpongeBob and Patrick beaten to a pulp, Sandy thinks it's only right to make things even, by beating the crap out of Squidward.
Y'all want to see a game? Fine. Squidward, I challenge you to a game.
Yeah, she decides to just join in and try to beat Squidward in his own game. To her credit, it's entertaining, and probably deserved since he's torturing the two of them for entertainment, but she's basically doing the thing she's calling out Squidward for. And the crowd? Of course, they eat it up. Then we get this whole montage of Sandy bullying Squidward in front of the crowd, including his mother.
Check.
And after stomping Squidward 98-0, the final resolution we get from Sandy is declaring SpongeBob and Patrick both winners, with a warm group hug and Squidward's head exploding. Cool. So, after all that chaos, violence, and screaming, you're left sitting there asking the same question SpongeBob and Patrick asked at the start. What is sports? I don't know about you guys, but throughout my first watch, I kept asking myself, where are we going with this? What exactly is this episode trying to do? When we reach the end, it doesn't feel anything like sports-themed comedy. More like an experiment that nobody thought through. I mean, let's start with the obvious. The plot makes no sense. The entire plot hinges on SpongeBob and Patrick not knowing what sports equipment is, or anything about sports at all. Which would be fine if they hadn't already spent an entire episode competing in Olympic-level events, in fry cook games, and some beach episodes, like Ripped Pants, and the fact that SpongeBob has a built-in home gym. We see that in Help Wanted. SpongeBob also does karate with Sandy sometimes. Even catching jellyfish could be considered as some kind of sport, right? We all consider fishing a sport. I mean, it has some competition in it. But in sports, they're suddenly confused by a soccer ball and a golf club. It's not even funny stupid. It feels like the writers needed a shortcut for a sports-themed plot, and this was the easiest one. And get this, once the foundation makes no sense, everything else starts wobbling too, because Squidward's revenge is just lazy. Like I said, for years we all joked about Squidward should get his revenge once in a while, it's only fair. But this episode doesn't explore that idea. Squidward's just chilling, telling them to hurt each other, and they just obey him. What is with that? Can't you just make something like Fools in April? Squidward does plan his revenge there and sets up a whole ride of shame for SpongeBob. At least it's something. Even Squidward himself feels off this time. He isn't witty, sarcastic, or creative at all. He's just a psychopath for the sake of plot convenience. Which leads us to the most painful part of this episode. The fact that the whole town craves violence. Out of nowhere, an entire crowd shows up as if they've been waiting their whole lives to watch someone get concussed with a horseshoe. Did they really think, yeah, let's have the whole town encourage child-friendly torture? Kids will love that. Actually, the kids in this town do love to watch someone getting tortured. They cheered when SpongeBob got beaten and forced to eat lima beans, so I guess they got their bloodthirst from their parents. It's also a letdown when Sandy shows up because I genuinely think there's gonna be some kind of resolution. I stupidly think, finally, now we're gonna have some meaningful conversation. But no, she's just here to add more violence. She challenges Squidward, beats him senseless across multiple sports, and the crowd, again, roars in approval. That's why after 10 minutes of painful games, the ending doesn't mean anything. Sandy declares everyone a winner, hugs all around, and Squidward's head explodes. Nobody learns any lessons from these shenanigans. Heck, nobody even learns what a sport actually is. But one of the strangest things I found when researching about sports is that this episode reveals something bigger about us as fans. Yes, some people hate this episode for the reasons I've just talked about, but there's also another side of the internet that genuinely celebrates it. You get comments like, slapstick, karma, Sandy beating Squidward, what's not to love? Or, Patrick deserved it, so this was satisfying. And even, Squidward is awful, he deserves every broken bone. After reading these, you can't help but wonder, do people actually enjoy the violence? Or is this just sarcasm? Or are they so used to violence, something like this isn't even surprising anymore? I guess some episodes are just so bad, they change the audience's expectation of what SpongeBob should be. It's just kinda sad. It's empty enough that people can read anything into it. Vengeance, karma, justice, catharsis, even when the episode itself doesn't know what it's trying to say. See, if sports was your first SpongeBob sports episode, you might just shrug and go, it's just chaos, whatever. But I think one of the big reasons everyone hated this episode is because SpongeBob already perfected this exact premise over 20 years ago, in one of the most beloved classics ever made, the Fry Cook Games from Season 2. Now, don't get me wrong, the Fry Cook Games aren't logical either. Fast food restaurants competing in the Olympics to prove who's the superior fry cook? That's glorious nonsense. But it doesn't matter, because the episode knew how to sell the idea. It gives us a good lead for what to expect. Right from the start, the episode tells you what the premise is. Oh, they're doing the Olympics, but with food. And instantly, the jokes write themselves. Throwing a big straw instead of a javelin, using fruit jelly instead of a trampoline, the clean and jerk with a whole barrel of pickles. Every event is a ridiculous, creative twist on a real sport. I bet the writers had a blast creating these bits. But the secret ingredient wasn't even the sports. It's the old rivalry between the Krusty Krab and the Chum Bucket. Those two have been competing in this event for years, and now it's their employees that have to carry the torch. You genuinely want to know what's going to happen and who's going to win. All you gotta do is put in some realistic fish to hype up the viewers. And while we're on this subject, yes, this episode is full of painful, disgusting gags too. In fact, a lot of them. And of course, we get the iconic yellow versus pink rivalry, only to end on this legendary twist. It's the perfect and most memorable finale. And okay, technically the underwater color thing wasn't intentional.
You know, these were white when I bought them.
But that's part of the charm. However, the most important thing is, through all the chaos, you felt like you were watching something understandable. Meanwhile, sports looks at all of that and goes, nope, let's do none of that. They even wiped the show's memory to force a lazy setup. I think it's not an exaggeration to say that sports is way more than just a messy episode. It shows how far the show strayed from the formula it once executed perfectly. But at least that makes the title card somewhat make sense, right? Maybe they intentionally put the question mark there, because the teams themselves didn't really know what this episode was even about, and they wanted us to feel the same. For that, the episode deserves a lot of hate. In the end, sports doesn't leave us much to have feelings about. I mean, it's just an empty plot with a lot of violence. It forgets that chaos is only fun when you care about the characters that are caught in it. And it shows how easy it is for the show to forget why we cared about these characters in the first place. The golden seasons of SpongeBob showed that perfectly. In fact, there was once an episode and one scene that proves my point. A moment so iconic, so perfectly written, that it didn't just redeem a character, it made the entire fandom fall in love with him. You already know which one I'm talking about. If you want to see the moment SpongeBob reminded us what great storytelling looks like, and the exact one scene that makes everyone fall in love with this character, go check out the video right here. I guess after surviving sports, you've earned something inspiring. I'll see you on the next dive.